Good morning, students. Welcome to the ARK Reflections IAS today's newspaper analysis. So we'll just briefly give it a glance of this newspaper. So these are the important news. When it comes to the important news, like second round of talks between the Iran and US today. So Trump says as Tehran blocks. Just in the last class, as you remember, we discussed about Iran is opening Strait of Hormuz to pass the ships. But immediately the same day, as we also discussed in the class, US didn't lift the blockade on the Iran ports. So US didn't lift the blockade on the Iran ports. And what happened when the US didn't lift the blockade on the Iran ports? So Iran, so it again blocked the Strait of Hormuz. So we also have seen that some of the Indian ships are fired on some Indian ships, and the Indian Minister of External Affairs, so they issued some summons to the Iranian ambassadors in India. So these are the important developments which is happening. So Iran opened the Strait of Hormuz, but US didn't open the blockade of the Iranian ports. Then again Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and it stopped to blockade the ports. And today again the talks are going to happen. The second round of talks are going to happen. So these are the important news. US president threatens to destroy if the talks fails. If the talks fails, US president strongly decided to destroy the remaining civilian infrastructure in the Iran. So if Iran does not accept the deal. So, and what is Iran is telling? US naval blockade is violation, unlawful, criminal says, unlawful and criminal says Iran. So this is what happening, like it's kind of a Tom and Jerry or cat and mouse game, but it's seriously impacting the global financial crisis and global population, and even we are feeling prices are increasing because of due to the lack of gas and all. Yeah, these are the important thing. So here we can see 23 people killed in explosion at a firecracker factory near the Nagar in Tamil Nadu. So these things which there is no proper safety guidelines in these factories which are not following. So we can see rapid accidents, rapid increase in these kind of accidents. That's for sure. And when it comes to the students and kin of diplomats, so most of the Indian people who are stationed in Iran, they were extradited from the Iran to the Azerbaijan, the neighbor country of the Iran. Even in the prelims perspective, the Iran neighbors are very, very important. So as Iran US rivalry war is going on, so in the prelims you might get a question on the bordering countries of Iran. Okay, what are the bordering countries of Iran? Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey, Iraq, and when it comes to the eastern side, Pakistan, Afghanistan. On the northern side, it's Uzbekistan. So these are the countries of Iran. So next, so when it comes to the amid conflicts, this is very important. Amid conflicts, the crude oil imports declined nearly 17% in March. So like these conflicts are happening, but the crude oil prices are decreasing. The crude oil imports. So why the imports were declined? Because the prices are increased. When the prices are increased, what will happen? The demand decreases. When the prices increase, the demand decreases. So the imports got declined. Here, that is one of the important thing. As we also know, in the February, the barrel price was around $68 to $70 in the February. When this Iran-American war was not happening, it was around $68 to $70. And what about the current now? It was almost $100 it reached. Almost $100 it reached. And when the Iran announced the Strait of Hormuz will be open, then again the dollar prices was decreased. And again, I think today markets again will crash because again the Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. So these kind of things, the up and downs are happening. But what we can see here is, comparing to the July 2025, so you can see March 2025, July 2025, and March 2026. It was the graph we can see there is a decrease in the imports of crude oil. It's also same with the liquefied petroleum gas also. Liquefied petroleum gas also, the imports has decreased. Why? Because these are the uncertainties. The availability of these products become little less. When also little the prices are high, then obviously the demand also will shrink. That is one important thing. And next, this is very important article. Very important article. How altered mosquitoes could reshape the malaria control. Even the India is also one of the country which are strong. We can see the rise of the cases, a number of cases in the malaria related cases. There is a scientific breakthrough where they altered the genes of mosquito so that they can't contain, or they can't make, or they can't able to grow the plasmodium parasite which causes the malaria. Yeah, that is one thing. So we'll also discuss briefly about this article. So here we can see the picture. So yeah, marathon on the robotics. This is what happening in China. So how they advanced their robotics are getting every day. They are getting every day. They are developing their advanced robotics. And again, the delimitation. These are all things which we already discussed. The same thing. Like from last few days, we are discussing about the delimitation and all. And the next important article, but this is important article, differentiating between the welfare and development. So due to in the elections, because now there are in many states there are elections are going on. So what the politicians are doing, they are combining the development and welfare activities, and they're projecting even the welfare activities also as a development. For example, giving a rice or giving some money every day in the form of scheme. They are adding these kind of very short-term measures which gives the short-term results also added into the development. But the other is telling welfare is very different and development is very different. So this we'll discuss. And next important thing we'll discuss was, so this one. So how AI companies are quietly becoming the world's cyber security gatekeepers. This is also very important and the very we can say dangerous news. How we can say very dangerous news? Just we can see the nuclear powers which only like few countries in the world which holds the all the nuclear missiles and all. So similarly, these AI tech companies, they are becoming like a cartels or like a group of companies. They are holding tightly the important technology or the most sophisticated cybersecurity technology, so that they will decide whom they will give the services. So these become the monopolization or the cartelization of the technology, which we can see here. So this is the important articles which we'll discuss. Let's start one by one. So first article which we see, the talks today, the Trump says as the Tehran blocks straight. Like on Saturday on the same news channel, we said the Strait of Hormuz opened. The Strait of Hormuz open for all. Open for all. But US didn't lift the blockade. No, the US had not lifted the blockade on Iranian ports. Iranian ports. Then what Iran has did? Iran again closed Strait of Hormuz, closed the Strait of Hormuz, and as a result, it also opened Iranian vessels. Also opened Iran security person. They are also opened fire on some Indian oil vessels which are transporting some oil or fuel shipments from Gulf to India. This is also very important. But today, again, there is a second round of talks are happening. Let's see what will happen by the evening or by tomorrow. We'll get. And next important thing is, amid the conflict, the crude oil imports declined 17% from March. Like we can see the LPG cylinder sales to domestic households also, it's fell 18%. So it's what happening due to the uncertainty. Due to uncertainties, what happening? Due to uncertainties. So the supply is limited. When the supply is limited, what happens in the people? Automatically the consciousness develops. When the supply limited, then the usage decreases. When the usage decreases, the demand also decreases. This is what exactly happening. Exactly happening. Amid conflict, the crude oil imports declined nearly 17%. So when we can see this fuel utilization or the gas utilization has decreased, it means there is a decrease in the growth of that particular economy. When the the usage of power, for example, the best benchmark was power. So usually in the developing countries or the developed countries, the usage of power is high. When the usage of power is less, it means that economy is using less power. Economy is not going in a faster pace. Power decreases, usage of power decreases, and the growth of economy also decreases. Same here, usage of fuel decreases and the growth of economy is also decreases, which we can see based on the uncertainties, whatever the causes. Next important, differentiating the welfare and development. Here, what the author is telling, welfare is not equal to development. Welfare is not equal to development. So, are you all agree? Welfare is not equal to development. Why? Because the welfare is short term. Welfare is short term, and the development is long term. Welfare is short term. Development is clearly a long term goal which takes years and years. For example, housing or the input on the human capital like the education, health. This will take years, sometimes decades to see the results, the visible results. But in the welfare, we can see very short term, but we can see the results very rapidly. So, but clearly, what is the welfare? For example, public distribution system, free food, free food, free food, or giving money in the schemes, freebies, money schemes. So these all things comes under welfare, which is a short term, which helps to relieve the poverty, and helps the vulnerable sections of the society. But when it comes to the development, it is a long term, like expenditure on human capital, institutions, or any kind of capital expenditure. So these things not immediately felt by people, but these things immediately felt by the people. Then what is the problem with here is, so with the welfare is equal to development. Here the problem is there are some issues. The key issues here were welfare case. When it comes to the welfare, as it is rapid, we can use for political gains. Political gains in the sense, like you see, just before the elections or just before the election code releases, so people will get the money in some kind of schemes or some other things, which make sure that people will feel that so government is giving money. But does it really helps in the longer term? Definitely no. But immediate political gain, so electoral gains, the political gains in the sense the electoral gains, welfare is important. Welfare is important. But second thing, what is the key issue here? If you focus on giving money only to the welfare, what will happen? If you focus only to welfare, there is a physical constraints, which means, so to do the capital expenditure or to the proper development or to lay the roads or to spend money on the students kids education and health or giving the more nutritious food. So these things definitely will impair when you are concentrating on the short term measures like welfare. If you are concentrate on the more short term measures of the welfare because of the electoral gains, so your development will be impaired. And third important thing, poor planning in these welfare activities. Poor planning. What is poor planning in these welfare activities? When the poor planning in the welfare activities, which means there are huge loopholes or the leaks. There are huge loopholes and the leaks which are very much visible. So when there is number of leaks and corruption exist in these welfare schemes. So these are some key issues in this problem where the author has discussed. One is political gains, because politicians has choosing the governments, even the governments are choosing the welfare more as comparing to the development, because the welfare gives the immediate political gains, and also it will also increase the physical concerns, because if you are giving more money for the welfare activities, you'll have less money for the capital expenditure, even the institutional expenditure or the human capital expenditure. Okay. Third one, poor planning. As the welfare schemes are sometimes very poorly planned, there are some certain leaks in these welfare schemes. So next, what the author finally has said, welfare without development and development without welfare. So welfare without development, welfare without welfare without development and development without welfare. So what happens here? It gives the social instability. Social instability. But development without welfare also will definitely make the people not happy. So it will definitely reflects in the political voting. So in the political voting. So that's why these political leaders, they are preferring more of short-term measures like welfare. That is what this article has discussed. And next important article, very important article, how the altered mosquitoes could reshape the malaria control. What happened? There is an important technological breakthrough happened. What happened here? So they made an altered mosquitoes. Altered mosquitoes. What does it mean by the altered mosquitoes? Their genes is changed. Genetics is changed such a way that they cannot grow plasmodium. Plasmodium is the parasite which contains the malarium plasmodium, which contains they cannot grow because these are the vectors. So which carries the mosquitoes or the carriers which carry the malaria plasmodium to the humans, which they inject into the human cells. Here what they did, they altered the mosquito genes that it can't grow or it will kill the plasmodium, so that it will not infect into the human body. So next, what happens here? Usually, what are the traditional methods to control the malaria or the mosquitoes? Traditional methods, some insecticides and some drugs. Insecticides and drugs. So both insecticides and drugs, both the mosquitoes are getting insecticides and drugs. Mosquitoes are trained, they are overcoming, they are attaining the immunity to surpass these insecticides and drugs. They are getting more immune day by day. They are adapting, in the sense they are adapting to the insecticides and drugs. They are more adapting to the insecticides and drugs. Over the time, what will happen? These become very ineffective. That is the main cause. So what the article has discussed, there is a research article published in the one of the most prestigious journal called Nature. In the Nature, the article says that so the researchers or the scientists, they have selected the few mosquitoes from the Tanzania where the malaria is very endemic, so very strongly spreading, and they altered the genes using the new gene technology called gene drive technology. New gene drive technology. So what is this gene drive technology? Usually in the reproduction process, so we inherit the genes of 50% from our mother and 50% of our father. So that is the 50% is normal gene adaptation. 50% is normal gene adaptation, normal gene adaptation. And next, what is happening? Gene drive technology, 50% is normal gene adaptation. And here, with the gene drive technology, they made sure that the altered genes in a female Anopheles mosquito, which make sure that offspring inherits 90%, 90% from the mother. So that offspring will definitely make sure it will not able to maintain the plasmodium parasites in its body. That is very, very important. So this is the simple way how these researchers are doing. But here there are some key challenges. You understand, right? With the new gene drive technology, instead of allowing the mosquitoes to carry 50% genes from the mother, so they altered the mother's gene to dominate more than 90% in the offspring, so that offspring will not contain or will not maintain this malarial plasmodium. So when they can't maintain this malarial plasmodium, what will happen? So when even the mosquito bites us, so it cannot inject this malaria. But here the key issues again, the key issues in here was, so ecological changes, the ecological impact. What is the ecological impact? So once the change happened to the mosquitoes, once the change happened to the mosquitoes at genetic level, is the change forever. Once the impact was happened, when the gene was edited in the mosquitoes genetic pool, so that change will be forever. It will transfer to the whole generations. So that is the ecological impact, and also the technical impact. Even the technical impact, because it is not it was not properly not directly integrated. The results were good, but there are some technical anomalies still they have to figure out. And one more important thing was ethical. So ethical impact. So how ethical is to release the modified organisms into environment? How much ethical is to release the modified organism into environment? That is also very, very important. So these are the important key issues associated with this article. Next important article which we see was how AI companies are quietly becoming the world cyber security gatekeepers. This is very, very important article in the whole newspaper, which I feel that this is the most important article. So what's happening? So these AI companies quietly become the world cyber security gatekeepers, because these AI companies, what they are doing, they are making the softwares. What their cyber security softwares? Cyber security softwares. They are developing these cyber security softwares. Okay, this is fine. They are developing the cyber security softwares. What happening? Because these cyber security softwares is so powerful that they are detecting even the smaller vulnerabilities. They are detecting even the smaller vulnerabilities. Okay, so recently the Anthropic project Glasswing. So this Anthropic project Glasswing. So that is very important. In this project glasswing, very, very important. This is very highly important for the prelims perspective also. In this project glasswing, which is started by the Anthropic, so they have, it's some kind of an association of these important companies like Anthropic, Amazon, AWS, Microsoft, Linux, and OpenAI. So they brought different AI development companies into one platform, and these project glasswing, under this project glasswing, what they happened, and these players, these major players, they control whom to get these sensitive technologies. These players, so these major players, these major companies, they hold this important cybersecurity tool which has a dual purpose in nature, which has a dual purpose nature with this. So on the paper, this project glasswing, it appears that on the paper, the project glasswing appears that these companies are just, they're coming together, they form a group just to coordinate on the improving the better cybersecurity team. Underneath, what is the underneath? This is the just surface of the iceberg. On surface of the iceberg, it looks very small, but on the paper, it looks like this project glasswing is to make these companies gather together and they coordinate on the future cybersecurity tools and the present cybersecurity tools. But underneath of this project glasswing, what is the important? Under the project glasswing, so these players, so the real intention of this project glasswing is to control the access of these very important technologies. And these cybersecurity tools, what they can do, they can find vulnerabilities. They can find the vulnerabilities in our OS or web browsers and all. Very, very important. They can find the vulnerabilities. So very important. So it means who has the control of these key technologies, their web browsers and their OS, they become the more strong. They become more strong. So once they control, everyone will not have the equal access. So in the last AI summit, our Prime Minister Modi, he has discussed that democratization of AI. Democratization of AI means AI for all. Everyone should have an equal and equitable access to the AI. But these companies are not allowing. These companies are doing like their cartelization. Cartelization means a group of companies, the top tech companies, they're coming together and they're telling they are holding this technology. And these technologies have a serious concern. These technologies has, especially these strong cyber security has tools has dual purpose, same like the nuclear energy. So in the nuclear energy, the dual purpose, which they can use for offensive purpose, also defensive purpose. So here also, this is also same. So that's why, and previously the cyber security comes under the government control. But now these few countries are holding the power. These few countries are holding the power. So similarly, now governments have to do proper legislations or the proper legal framework, which should not the capitalization or the confinement of the power in the few technological companies' hands. It should not. The government should not make this happen. The government should act very fast. This is very, very serious case. So they are holding the key cyber security softwares, which of course they developed, but they are not allowing those softwares to reach everyone easily, and they are the ones who is controlling. Okay, it is like they are developing some very important technology or very important drug, so which many people are dying, but those companies are not allowing those drugs to pass to these people, even they are dying. This is very, very serious in nature. So governments have to make the legislation framework and act as fast as they can. So these are the important articles of the today. Tomorrow we'll discuss the further articles. Okay, tomorrow's newspaper. Thank you.